It's another beautiful day in Hawaii. Wish you were here. So I'm talking today more about our theme, champion mentality. And earlier today, I did a post on Instagram and I talked about how champions and winners, specifically winners, come back and win again, time and time again. And scientists have studied this and they've studied the neuroscience behind this. So a little bit about what's going on is there's a scientific study where some mice were put together and they determined that despite any physical differences in their size or strength, they controlled for all of that, that the winning mice would come back and win again over and over. And they took mice that were winning in contests and they had them compete for survival aspects like a heat lamp or something like that. And the winning mouse always got the warm spot. Andrew Huberman does a lot of really great work with talking about this. So, but the winning mice, they studied what possibly was making them win again. And there are a few different theories behind this. And one of them is that they believe they can win, so it sparks all kinds of brain connectivity and neurotransmitter response. So going forward in your competitions, in your practice, whatever you want to be successful at, you have to believe first that you can win. The other thing is that winners had a spike in different things like dopamine. So the ones that won had more dopamine, and then they got a bigger dopamine increase after winning. And then that carried them to win again because they had more dopamine again. The losers had a drop in the dopamine. So dopamine is a really key element to your drive and your motivation. Also, it's important for neurological functions like movement. So if you know anyone with Parkinson's, for instance, they definitely have a dopamine deficiency. It's one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's. So dopamine we know is really important to this champion mentality and to this neurotransmitter response of winning over and over again and being successful. We can think of that as being successful instead of maybe just if you're not doing an athletic competition. Okay, so the question is, how do we make sure that we have enough dopamine when we need it? So for me, I'm going to just use myself as an example. In my race, the 400 meters, there comes a point where fatigue overcomes my body. And at that point, I have to say to myself, okay, what's going to happen? Do I let this fatigue overcome me or do I fight back? And for me, I have trained myself in my practices to overcome the fatigue by being excited about the end of my race. So while most people loathe the last 100 meters of a 400, I actually get really excited. I see that finish line and I start to kick. Now my body might not be able to physically keep up with my mental kick, but I am there. At the 300-meter mark, I'm telling myself things like, I love this. I love this pain. I love what's going on right now. I love this fight. And what researchers have found to back this up is that actually what's happening is that those that seek a harder path for a greater reward have more dopamine than those that seek an easy path for a lesser reward. So what that means is that if you seek a hard challenge, like say sprinting, or if you seek to do a hard event, and it's consistently hard to achieve that goal, you're going to have more dopamine. If you are lazy and you want to just take the easy path and you want to seek out, okay, what is the easiest way I can get a medal? Or what is the easiest way I can, just run a race, or the easiest way I can get this task done. So if you're just seeking the easy way and not the hard way, you're going to have less dopamine. So that's lesson number one. So sorry, my hair's in the wind. So seeking this hard path is really essential to promoting dopamine at the right time. The other thing is that you have to make sure that your dopamine receptors are working properly, and that's kind of a two-way, two-path mechanism, I would say. One is making sure you're not depleting your dopamine, and the other is making sure you're supporting your dopamine receptors. Those kind of go hand in hand, and I'll explain. So dopamine happens when we're rewarded, or it's actually the anticipation of a reward. So if you see, you love chocolate cake, and you see a big juicy slice of chocolate cake, and you are excited to have that chocolate cake that dopamine actually comes before you have the chocolate cake, not after you have the chocolate cake. So it's that anticipation of having the chocolate cake. So what happens though is that things like sugar tell our neurotransmitters that, oh, this was good, we're happy now. But then it rewires your brain to say, we want more of this, keep it coming. Because sugar and refined carbohydrates, just like drugs or alcohol or gambling, will actually deplete your dopamine receptors. So what happens is you're having a flood of dopamine.